Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be showing you how to define functions in Python. Now this is very useful because it allows you to make a bunch of code that you would use over and over again in one location. In programming, the best way of creating functions, or like the main reason you want to do it, kind of the standard, is that if you're going to use some code a lot, then you're going to want to make it into a function and call that function instead of having to rewrite that code a bunch of times. This makes it simpler for you as a programmer to make a program. You don't have to write the same thing over and over and over again, and it also allows people reading your code to understand what's going on. They can look at your functions and then look at where you call your functions and say, okay, every time this is mentioned, this is the code that's running, instead of having to look through like an exponentially greater amount of code to find out what you're doing. You want to use more functions in your program than you want to like lines of code that aren't in functions, unless that can't be helped. So, for example, there's a lot of code that goes into the print function in Python. Now, instead of typing that, like, I'm guessing at least 50 lines of code over and over again, they made it into one function. Pretty cool. So that's an example of when you want to make a function. An example of when you don't want to make a function is like a equals 5 and then you say a plus plus, or a plus equals 1. You don't need to make a function that does a plus equals 1 because you can just do it like that whenever. Even if that's used a bunch of times, you don't want to make a function called increment that you call every time. That's just stupid. It's just going to add to your code without really having to do much at all. Okay, so let's actually define a method. What we're going to do is take a method that will, let's say, iterate through a list of variables and find what index is equal to the word function. And if function isn't there, it returns a -1. Alright? Cool. So, to do this, we use the keyword def, which tells Python we're defining a function. And then after that, we give a leading space and we say the name of the function. So, let's call this function, let's just call it foo. Now, foo is going to take some sort of list, and we're going to call that list li. So in these parentheses, we list all variables that we want our function to take. In this case, we just want to take one, which is li. And that is the name that that variable will have for the rest of the function. So, for example, when you use the function list on something, you type list, left parenthesis, and then you give it some sort of object, like a tuple or something, and then a right parenthesis, and then it makes that into a list. And so the argument there is what you want to change into a list. In this example, we're giving it a list that we want to find the index for the word function inside of. So after you list all your arguments that you're going to use, you put a colon, you press enter, and you give it 4 spaces. Excuse me. So then, now that we have all that set, what we're going to do is actually do our iteration, our function, what we're going to be doing over and over again. So, in this example, we're going to just say for I in range of the length of li. I'm not sure if I went over range, but what it essentially does is gives us 0 through whatever number we give it. So inside of here we gave it the length of li. So this will give us 0 to whatever the length of that list is. So now this will allow us to iterate I from 0 to the length of li minus 1, actually. So that it'll help us a lot and allow this function to do what we originally designed it to do, which is find the index of the word function inside of the list that we specify. So now we do colon, and then we just say if li index I is equal to function colon break, or my bad, return I, and then below that we want to say break. Now, sorry, just making sure that I didn't miss indents there. We go down, and then we're going to say else pass, or actually, let's redo this. Design error, guys. Before this if statement, we want to check to see what I is or if I is equal to the last. Wow, sorry, I'm losing my concentration. We have to check to see if I is the last integer from the range of 0 to the length of the list. So if li, or my bad, if I, and you know, let's clean this up too. We don't need these parentheses. This is Python. We'll say if I is equal to length of li minus 1, or no, we should put this below the other statement. My bad, guys. I am not doing so well today, I guess. So if I is equal to length of li minus 1, return negative 1. So what this will do is to check to see if this index is equal to function, and if it is, it'll return I and then break. Now I didn't go over break, I don't think, but essentially what this does is it will stop the loop from continuing, and the return will stop the function. So we should not have this if statement run. Now if it's not function, then it'll check this one, and if it's equal to that, it'll just return 1, because that means that nothing in the list was equal to function. So now our function is done, and we can say, let's say li is equal to apples, frogs, and function. And actually, let's add something else, button. Now, if we say foo li, we should get 2, and we get 2. Awesome. Now, if we redefine this so that it's just apples, for example, and we say foo li, we get negative 1, meaning that nothing in there was equal to it. Pretty cool, right? And that's the basics of a function. Just remember the syntax of keyword def, name, and arguments. And then in here you basically just write whatever you would want to do, whatever calculation, using those variables. And you can call this function whenever you want and at any place in your code, which makes your code much more compact, readable, and it allows you to do so much more because you can actually call functions inside of other functions to get values. So when you're pulling input from users, you can get all sorts of crazy outcomes because you can take their input, throw it into a function, take that output, throw it into another function, which uses those outputs to do something crazy, and then you make sparks and you end up owning Microsoft. So yeah, functions. If you guys like this video, please press the like button. If you really like it, favorite it, share it on Facebook or whatever you want. And if you want to see future videos, please press the subscribe button. That always helps as well. Thanks again, and I'll be seeing you later.